Hello and welcome back to the Small Game Show. After no break whatsoever. No, don't look at the previous video's release date. I can assure you it was last week. This week we have a city builder, a Muso-ish style game, and a creepy, atmospheric horror game. Tom's City is fantastic. It is a game made by a team of two developers, the aforementioned Tom, the art director, and Dad, the programmer. Now, you might notice that there is a very specific art style for this game, and that is because Tom is a youngster. Dad has taken their drawings and put them into a city builder, with a few rules and a bit of progression. There's something to taking drawings that are familiar to anyone with a child or who happened to be a child in the past, that lets us re-embody that experience of childlike wonder and possibility, borrowing the styling to Tom to achieve that. Just has so much charm. The actual mechanics of the game are simple. You have residential buildings that fill up with people. As you put decorations and amenities down, people like you more. Handily, the people and the businesses of town all pay you money, meaning that you can put more homes down for more people. It has that similar growth trajectory that a clicker does, and this isn't a bad thing. You are always unlocking something new to fit into your town. I think to add more mechanics would potentially make a better game, but I also think that this would be missing the point. Instead, they provide a framework for creation of this city, never overwhelming you with choice, but giving you more to develop with. Think about how SimCity alikes encourage you to put residential away from industrial. These limitations create the ideal of a city. The mechanics, if you're following them, mean that you have to build in a particular way. Now, there's creativity to be found in these rules, and internalising them is part of the joy. But Tom's City instead just lets you freeform it, place things to your heart's content. It has that childlike immediate creative expression that we only lose when we place the rules of life and being an adult on them. So I put in trees, lots of trees. I made the town centre be a big forested area, and for a while the main shop was only accessible by a big trek through the woods without any paths. Then I unlocked the church and wanted to put that in the middle of a forest too, so more trees. I kinda like trees a lot, and so wanted a lush green town, and this got me to imagining the church that was sort of the place of worship for some forest god. The tools of this game provide very little resistance to this sort of play, this sort of reading into what you're doing, its inherent silliness and charm overwriting any need for realism. And all of this was brought to life by the drawings of Tom and never weighed down by the mechanics of Dad. In one of the comments, Dad states that he's been a bit resistant to putting an undo button in the game, as Tom tends to just roll with his mistakes. When placing a railroad, I did an accidental loop-de-loop that would at best make a horrendous commute, and at worst would get me on the headlines of a news site. But I rolled with it, because that is the world that I was building. It was the one that didn't mind the occasional oopsie, and I was invited to play in this way because of the art style. Sitting with these drawings has a kind of magic to it, something unlocking of the past both in play and memory. The one final thing I want to talk about was this moment when I reloaded my city, and it drew in the same order of my creation, sped up, giving it its history. It really is a neat touch, getting to see your creation materialise in front of you. Go try this one, folks. It's so charming that it'll knock your socks off. Oldschool Mists of Krakovia is an oddity that defies description. It's a sort of mix between MMO, Muso-style game, and PS1 aesthetics. To start the game you have to pick from one of three classes. I picked the skeleton because skeletons are cool, but the other options, the fairy and the boxing horse, each seem to play differently. Yeah, I did say boxing horse. There is an air of a certain era of Twitter to the humour in this, and the photo of the horse character did get a laugh out of me. The actual gameplay has you moving around with WASD, left clicking to attack. As you level up you will get further abilities on your right click, shift, Q and F. These each have a different cooldown, and it ended up really reminding me of rotations in an MMO, but with more positioning and manoeuvrability for your character. Speaking of manoeuvrability, if you run at a wall and jump, you whip out a skateboard and will fly up, getting extreme height. This becomes essential to reach other parts of the level, to travel fastly, and you gain momentum quickly. It's not a tightly designed system, but it is fun to fly in the air to your next leveling zone. Each of the areas in the game has a level recommendation, again leaning into that MMO style feel. There was also this ability to turn PvP on, but I put it on and didn't see any other players. So you go through killing different creatures to get better at killing mostly similar creatures. You then kill these to get the power to kill the next level cap of creatures, all with the big boss at the end. I only ended up doing one of the bosses, but it required hitting it on its head, and he is much bigger than anything else in the world or any of the creatures you fought previously, so you need that janky movement to get on top and do damage, all while he is moving with some level of jank. It's all very loose, from the art style to the bosses to the attacks and the movement, it all has this jank to it. Grinding to get on top of bosses and unload all your MMO skills whilst it writhes in front of you, well, it's all quite silly. But I think that's what the game is going for. There is a certain charm to the stylings of this game. The motifs it uses did lead me to wanting to find out more about the world and what was going on. Then I would get to another generic enemy to kill for 5 levels and do my mandated grinding session, and this is where it ended up losing me. I think there is a core of something cool here, both in aesthetics and action, but it needs a lot of polishing before it gets to where it needs to be. Still, if the aesthetics itself and the action looks interesting to you as you watch this video, go and play it, it is cool and interesting. Detektiv is fairly emblematic of horror within the itch.io world. Taking the now well-established 5th console generation style graphics and using their inherent uncanniness to explore atmospheric, rich environments. It's been a while since I've played one of these, and it was so fun to go back to these stylings, character models and environs. They still have so much charm and spookiness to me, and it really is a space where you can feel individual developers' creativity seep through. Detektiv is made by Vuk Dobrik, and apologies for any mispronunciations there. But this is a developer who's had their hand in making several small horror games. The actual setting itself for Detektiv reads as Eastern European or Russian to me, but I want to be careful about being specific here, as I know that there is a lot more distinction to individual nationalities in this region of the world that I am sorely uneducated on. That being said, the rundown tenement building, empty urban areas with built-up rubble and vast eerie countryside all semiotically point to this part of the world, or at least the fantasy that is often represented in games. The actual story of the game is slight in nature, it's more of an excuse to explore environments. But you play as a detective Fyodor, who is regularly brought in by the police to investigate weird murders. The first murder is a female out in the countryside, and whilst it is brutal in nature, the graphics do some to hide the inherent queasiness of this. At the crime scene you find a code, and these are present throughout the game. And they seem to be red herrings to me, suggesting something larger. Maybe I missed something. It could, for instance, be that you have to knock on the numbers of the flats in your tenement to match up with the code. But I like the size and scope of what was presented, and I don't really feel like I needed this additional fluff. I'm here for the environments. You visit the so-called village to explore further, again finding another code. There is some good environmental storytelling here. The deprivation of the rural folk is loud, barely having a working house between them. One of the officers with you is nonchalantly smoking at each of the crime scenes, exuding a don't give a shit attitude. Even in these basic models they have character, and an off-kilterness. Look at the photographer, constant flashes coming out of what looks like a video recorder. It's kind of off, something is wrong, and that's all portrayed here. On the last day, you answer the door, a routine that you've been programmed to have normalised, each time having to go and get your ID to show to the police officers who want you to visit another crime scene. But this time the officer that greets you has been cut to ribbons. You have to follow his blood trail to find the second officer before a jump scare gets you and the game ends. This abrupt ending leaves you in this liminal space, a space between this being about the investigation, the environment, whether this is happening in Fyodor's head or is it reality. And the slightness of the work is in this game's favour, never dipping too long into pure reality or pure paranormal. It's a fun little horror romp. One last thing I want to point out in this game is its cinematic nature. The camera frequently pans around the environments during scene transitions, and it's all really well done. The game manages to extract the maximum it can out of these aesthetics. And lastly, there is the slight immersive sim style interactions with the world. You can turn on taps and TVs. I love pointless interactivity in worlds, and the fact you can only tune into static on your TV just adds to the creepiness present in the game. This is all to say I had a great time exploring this game and would absolutely love to see Vuck's clear love of environments in this low poly style be put in something slightly larger budget. Well worth a follow on his itch page based on this game, and maybe diving a bit deeper into his games. So that's the end of the video, folks. Thank you for joining me, especially if this has randomly popped up on YouTube and you find you are subbed to something from over 4 years ago. I have an idea of doing bigger explorations into some developers that I find on itch.io, going through their back catalogue and truly getting an idea of who they are as developers. So if you ever see a game on one of these videos that you want me to cover more from that person, then please let me know in the comments. I have been known to be persuaded by a single person commenting on videos. I will also be releasing some reviews of bigger games, and if you want to play along, this is going to start with the first Final Fantasy. I'm around the first draft zone of that video, so give me a week or two depending on how much life happens in between. Lastly, comments, likes, subscribes all do support me, and you know, I would like some of that support on this old YouTube thing. My name's been Billy. Peace.